For this second video of the Captivation Masterclass, we're going to talk about emotional communication. Actually, what's funny, if you want to get to know me a little bit more, is that in the entire strategy that I teach about social interaction, this is what I struggle the most with. What I'm going to teach you here is the stuff that actually I myself should be practicing every single day, but actually I'm even procrastinating on it because this is really so fucking far from how I ended up building my personality from the natural environmental dynamics. The environment through which I've been growing has shaped me into not having emotional communication at all, and I really struggle with it. But actually it's a good thing for you because it means that we're going to go in depth in this part. Emotional communication, how will it work? Basically, emotional communication can be defined in one sentence. Remember the pivots in the first part of the masterclass, the conversation masterclass. You have all the different pivots that you can take. There is different sources. Either you have the actual topic, either you have the previous topics from which you can take pivots to new topics. You have the entire map of identity, which helps you to know in which direction to go. And actually in this map of identity is integrated all the things that we've seen at the beginning in the very first video, like what are the news, what are the different hobbies, your projects, whatever, everything is inside. And from this, you kind of have the entire map of the different sources in the interaction from which you can go take pivots to new topics. Emotional communication is about adding one new source, which is emotions. That's hard, but that's incredible. This is very freeing, and this makes your interaction incredible, really. Basically how it works is that you just take one emotion and you use it as a pivot. That's all. For example, anger. You take anger as the pivot, and so you integrate it into another topic. Think about a whole which contains anger. So either it will be situation where people are angry, maybe it will be a situation where, I don't know, for example, a war or whatever. Or even, and more precisely, what we're interested in is a situation where you are angry. That's where it gets funny. And for this sake, because you're using the emotions as the only pivot, you can literally get any verbal. It doesn't make any difference. It will not make any difference at all. And from there, the verbal doesn't make any sense anymore. This is where we can say, fuck logic in this conversation. It's purely emotional, which means that the pivots are just the emotions. It becomes like a dream. In a dream, there is one scene, one scenery, and then there will be a pivot which comes from you don't even know where, which goes to another scenario which has nothing to do with it. The only link is the pivot, which most of the time is not even conscious, and you get to new sceneries which has nothing to do with the previous one. That's exactly the same with emotional communication, with emotional interaction, emotional conversation. The problem is that to do that, you have to embody the emotion. And you have to even find the emotion. And then you have to find verbal that are contained in this pivot, which encompass this pivot, which are within this field of these emotions. That's difficult. You can't really do it with your mind. It's hard. Doing it with your mind is hard. So how do you do that? Well, there is actually a 3-step process which allows you to do that very easily. The first step is to convert logical thinking into the birth of a web of emotions that you can choose. I will tell you how to do this. And the second part is about, from these emotions that you will have chosen, let your mind by itself do what it is meant for, which is bridging dissonances, fixing dissonance. So for example, there will be a certain topic in the interaction. You will be using this process, which is doing rational thinking, which allows you to find emotions. You choose one of them, and then by choosing these emotions, your brain will see a dissonance between the actual topic what the conversation has been like and the emotions that you want to embody now. And because there is a dissonance, your brain will want to fix it. And how will it fix it? By giving new interpretation of the verbal. The verbal doesn't make sense without a context. So your brain will find a new context to put around the verbal so that it is coherent with the emotions. Let's do it. I will show you. First part is to convert rational thinking into emotion. How do you do that? The complete, absolute, ultimate, easy, perfect trick, strategy to do that is through facial expression. You will play chess with your facial expressions. That's what you will do. You will see your facial expressions as a chessboard. That's what you will be doing. From those facial expression, you will be able to deduce emotions logically because you will already be doing the facial expression. Then there will actually be less dissonance in you if you embody the emotion because you will already be doing the facial expression, which you will force yourself to do. It will require less effort to your brain to actually start talking using intonations which convey the emotion that you've chose, which is associated with the facial expression you're doing, than not doing it. For example, if you're having angry facial expression, it will require more effort from your brain to keep talking in a normal way while having this facial expression than starting to talk as if you're angry, which doesn't require to actually feeling the emotion. What is needed to understand here is that the reason why we talk in a certain way depending on the emotion we're having has nothing to do with having the emotion. The only thing it has to do with is convey a certain type of meaning. Why does emotions come with way of talking? Why when you're depressed you will talk in one way, when you're angry you will talk in another way, having different facial expression, having different intonation, different volume? Why? It doesn't come from the emotion. It comes from the fact that those intonations, those different volumes, those different rhythms, as we've seen in the previous part, they convey different meanings to the other people. And actually, since our thinking has been conditioned with years to match communication with other people, then even if there's no other people, just thinking with yourself, thinking inside your head, will be modeled around this way of communicating with others. So even if there's no other people, it will be like this. If you were born in the jungle and you've never met any human being, you would not have this. You would be feeling emotions, different varieties of emotions, without needing to change the way you talk or whatever. Or at least it would be because of physical level events. But really, most of the reasons why we talk in different ways, depending on the emotions, has nothing to do with the physical level. It's completely at the communication level. When you're angry and you're talking with someone, because you're angry, you want a certain type of outcome. For example, you want to start a kind of fight, you want to confront them. How do you do that? Well, they have to understand that you want to confront them. How do you make them understand? Either you use words, but sometimes we want to go even more powerful than words. If I say, fuck you, man, you don't really understand how much I want to confront you. If it was the case, if I really wanted to confront you, even to go in a kind of fight, I just come in front of you and I say, man, fuck you, let's fight. Do you really get what I mean? Do you really get how much I want to fight you, how much I want to confront you? You don't get it. But that's what I want if I'm angry and I want to confront you. I want you to understand it. How do I make you understand it? Words are not enough. That's why there is multiple parts in the conversation. Words convey one type of informations, and the way you talk conveys complementary information. Fuck you, man, let's fight. You don't really know how to interpret it. You could interpret it in different way. There is an entire web of meaning around what you say, and the words are just one part of this web. Now, why when you're angry, you talk with someone, you're going to talk in an angry way? The way you talk when you're angry has nothing to do with being angry. It has only to do with conveying meaning to someone else, which will actually tend to always be the kind of meaning that you want to convey when you're angry. That's why we call it talking in an angry way. It has nothing to do with being angry. It has everything to do with what you tend to always want to convey to the people you're communicating with when you're angry. So every time you're angry, you will talk in this way. Not because it's linked to the emotion, but because it's linked to what outcomes you tend to want when you have these emotions. When you understand that, we understand that we can talk in ways that seems to be linked with certain types of emotions without having the emotion. It makes complete sense now, because those ways of talking, they don't come from the emotions. They just come from wanting to convey a meaning. Now, if you're talking to someone and you want to convey a meaning, which would be very easy to convey through certain types of intonation, certain types of facial expressions, then that's actually the optimal thing to do. But what's going to happen is that emotions, we tend to not control it, but basically emotions were made to help the mind, not the other way around. The mind is not made to comply to emotions. The emotions are made to comply to the mind. The mind chooses the direction it wants to go in, and then the emotions, they follow, so that at the physical level, the body gets ready to behave accordingly to the direction that the mind has chosen. So when you will do that, you will speak in this kind of way to convey this kind of meaning. Because now your mind will be set in the direction of conveying a certain type of meaning. The emotions will follow, because this is what they are made for, but we forget it. We think that the mind has to follow the emotions. No, it's the other way around. And so what will happen when you do this is that the emotion will follow. And so it adds to the illusion that the way we talk has to be linked to the emotion. No, it's an illusion. In both senses, it just follows one another. When you have an emotion, it will tend to make you talk in one way because you want to convey this meaning. And when you want to convey a type of meaning, your emotions will follow. And so we have this illusion that they are linked, that one comes with the other. No, just that they follow. They follow each other. They don't come together. They follow each other. That's what's going on. And so you don't need to have an emotion to talk in a way. You don't need to talk in a way when you have an emotion. You can unmatch them. But well, they will tend to follow each other. When you unmatch them, they will come back to match each other in the new way that you've decided. Okay, so how do we start with this? Facial expression. It will start with logic, playing chess with your facial expression. What you will do, actually, is you will take time. Like a robot, you will become a robot. A robot which is discovering the human life. You will go in front of a mirror in your house, in front of your mirror. And what you will do is you will try to create a map in your head of all the different way that you can move your face. So you will start with each part. For example, okay, the eyebrows. These eyebrows, what can I do with it? I can do this. I can do this, but it moves this one. I have to be careful. I can do this. Okay, so up, down. Can I move it on the side? No. And you will discover, like a scientist, every single move that you can do in your face. I can go up, I can go down. Can I go on the left and on the right? Can I do it? It doesn't seem so. When I go down, can I go down in different way? Can I go diagonal? Right, maybe, okay. And the other side. Okay, the same. And when I do both together, what can I do? Okay, next. What other places can I move? I can move, okay, the head here. I can move that. Can I move on the side or not? You will take a lot of time discovering your own face, your own facial expression in front of a mirror and mapping it in your head for everything. Okay, the nose, I can do this. Okay, I can go down, right? And you will map everything. Once you've done it, it will be like with chess. You will map every piece. Okay? Then what you will do is that you will try combination. Exactly like when you're trying to find pivots in conversation, you will try to find pivots in your facial expression. So every time you will want to find a combination of 3. So you will say, okay, now I will, for example, start with this one, and I will try to add a new one, for example, this, and the last one, this. Okay, and this will form a combination of facial expression like this. From this, when you're doing it, instantly, because the mind is associated, your mind is going to take this combination as a pivot to go through new ideas, to new mind elements, which are going to be linked to emotions, different emotions. Going to be like, what was it? Something like this. Now you will think, okay, it's linked to disgust, it's linked to surprise, it's linked to, okay? And automatically you will have idea of, for example, what, you really had sex with Johnny? Oh my God, he's disgusting. For example, where this verbal came from? It came from this chain. Okay, let's find a combination. This is logical. From the logic, an emotion. And this emotion, because the brain thinks in pictorial, thinks in situation, it will be linked to new topics, new situation. And you will have used this combination of facial expression as a sequence of causalities which leads you to topics. You will have used emotions as the new source of pivots. Let's try a new one. And now this one will make you think of, okay, it makes me think of a little kid who has done something bad, and so the parents, they say, okay, we will not go to the Disneyland because you've done something bad. Now you're like, but I've been doing my homework last weekend, and I'm sorry. Or whatever. Once again, it has to look ridiculous. This is how you work on it. And then when you will be talking with real people, you will be less extreme in the way you do it. But you have to train the path in your mind so that then you can naturally have those paths that come up in your interactions. What you will do is go on Google and type wheel of emotions. You will find picture of a wheel with all the different type of emotions inside. There will be either 5 or 6 main categories in the center. There will be happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, I think, fear. Okay, and maybe sometimes they add a bad. I don't really know why, but whatever. From each of them, you have ramification of sub-emotions. And for each of those, there will be a last ramification of like 2 polarities, which are within this sub-emotion. And then you will have the entire map of different emotions, like a spectrum. What you can do as well is go the other way around. You will look at this wheel, pick an emotion inside, and try to do it in your facial expression, in this sense. So one way would be to do random combination of facial expression, then identify on the wheel of emotion 3 emotions it could be linked to, and from there, think about different situations which would be inside, and then you play the situation. So if you want to develop your emotional communication as well, you will just add it in the exercises of just captivation. You will add one sequence where this time you will not use the book, you will not use any book, you will just have your wheel of emotion, you will have a mirror, and you will do exactly like the conversation exercise where you have 3 pivots and 3 topics that come out of each, so 9 at the end. The pivots will be the different combination of facial expression. So combination of 3 different movements on your face, it makes a facial expression. And you will do this 3 times. And for each of them, you will look on the wheel of emotion. Don't even look at it if you can find by yourself. You try to identify in terms of emotions, what name you can put on it, what emotion it is. So you will become familiar with a huge range of different emotions. And once you've done it, for each of them, you think about an associated situation. And then you play this situation by talking out loud. You do it. Then you will see that literally from any facial expression you do, or even any emotion that you choose on the wheel, and then you produce on your face, you will see that you will find situations that come out of it which have nothing to do with any other context other than the emotion and the facial expression, nothing to do with the previous topics or whatever. And from this, because there is a meaning in this situation, you will want to talk in a way that conveys this meaning furthermore than the facial expression that you're having. And by doing this, it will become very intuitive for you to just have emotional conversation. You will be talking with people and you will be doing different facial expression like this that you've never done. I used to never do this. I used to be like a robot. I would be talking like this. I would be having the same tonality, same volume, same emotion, completely neutral. I would laugh a lot, but that's all. And by training a bit at this, I've developed how to have different kind of facial expression. And what's funny is that either your facial expression and your intonation will convey the meaning that you are conveying within the following of the different pivots. Either you will break those pivots by going the other way around. You will just choose a random facial expression for just no reason. You will just choose it and let the pivot from this facial expression come into the conversation. Alright, that's it for the captivation part, and see you on the next one.